Hello, friends. This is Christy Montour-Larson, the artistic producer at Curious Theater Company. And with me today is playwright Lloyd Suh. In addition to writing FRANKLINLAND, which is opening at Curious Theater on November 5th, Lloyd Suh is the playwright of the acclaimed play, The Chinese Lady, recently produced at the Denver Center, The Wan Kids in the Secret of the Space Chupacabra Go, Jesus in India, and many more, including The Far Country, which will premiere at the Atlantic Theater Company in December. He has received a Guggenheim Fellowship and the Herb Alpert Award in the Arts, and he is a member of the Dramatists Guild Council. Lloyd Suh, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, can you please share with us what are some of the inspirations you came to write FRANKLINLAND?
Yeah, it started as a Sloan Foundation commission through Ensemble Studio Theater, which is a theater that I've been affiliated with for many, many years, kind of an artistic home for me. And they have this partnership with the Sloan Foundation that commissions and develops and produces plays about science and technology. And so in conversation with Graham Gillis at Ensemble Studio Theater over many years, it's always like, hey, if you ever have any ideas for plays about science or technology, let me know. And I had been reading just randomly about, like on my own, about Benjamin Franklin. And as I was reading, I was just taken with the fact that so much of his life was about science, even though what he's known for is about his contributions to civics and obviously the way in which he looms large over our cultural conversation is through government. But he was he was so obsessed with science, like that was his his main preoccupation. And so I thought, oh, how, like, that would be an interesting thing to just explore, like how one navigates civic responsibility against what one's personal obsession might be. And so that's where it began. And that initial impulse was to write about just that tension. And as I went into it, it became really about, for me, about something a little bit bigger. You know, it was still about that, I think, about what one sacrifices, but it also became about how does one deal with the legacy, right? When one, like the character of William, Benjamin Franklin's son, which was a very personal way in, you know, like I was just personally just deeply moved by the tension that existed in their relationship, and the way in which, you know, William Franklin had to navigate the legacy of his father, and also coupling that with what it is to grapple with the legacy of what it is to be an American.
Well, that's quite fitting because the theme for our 25th anniversary season is what does it mean to be an American? And it came about out of a collection of plays, including FRANKLINLAND, that deeply align with our mission and our core values. And so can you share with us more, Lloyd, about what you think it means to be an American these days?
Yeah, I mean, in this particular moment, obviously, this country is in a very serious reckoning over its history, right? And what to do with that history and how to move forward. And so, yeah, I think it's very apt. It's very exciting that that Curious is framing the season in this way, because it's the most important issue facing. You know, it's the most important thing in where we are as a culture. When we talk about how we lionize those we lionize, who we build statues for, and what those statues represent, how we frame the story of how this country came to be. And I don't have any answers to that. And I think that the theater, like I've been writing a lot about history lately, and hopefully I've been writing about history in a way that's forward thinking. But all of that is wrapped around this urge not to try to define it, but to want to get in a room with people, you know, with actors and directors, but also get in a room with audiences so that we can personalize, so that we can in our own ways, interrogate for ourselves where we are in that conversation with that question. What are we doing? How do we go forward? And so I guess the most honest answer to that question about what does it mean to be an American is to say that it means to be in a place of questioning right now.
Is that what you hope audience members will be thinking about or feeling about when they leave the theater after watching Franklinland?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hope that people can come to it as individuals, really. Like they can. I hope that anyone engaging with the play will think about their own relationship to not just America, but legacy in general, like being a child of parents, being a citizen, being someone with passions, and how one navigates the things that you love about life against the world as it is and the world as it could be.
We know Benjamin Franklin as the person on the $100 bill, the person who flew the kite. Maybe if you're advanced with Benjamin Franklin knowledge, you also know about the Franklin stove and about bifocals, and of course, one of our founding fathers. As you were working on the play, Lloyd, what were some of the surprises that you learned about Benjamin Franklin?
All the inventions, just the long list of inventions, it just like boggles my mind. Like how many like what part of the honestly part of that impulse, because at that time in my life I had a lot going on when I first started writing this play. I felt like I was being pulled in a lot of different directions, and so one of the things that really fascinated me was, how did this guy do all this, like where did he find the time to invent all these things simultaneous with founding a country, simultaneous with being a parent, and like how did that happen? And so that was just an immediate source of incredible fascination for me, for sure.
Lloyd, if someone in our community recently saw the Denver Center's production of The Chinese Lady, what connection or additional understanding would they gain by also attending Curious Theater's production of Franklinland?
Oh yeah, I mean it's so exciting to me that that an audience could engage with both of those plays in such a short period of time. It's rare for me to have plays running so close together in the same place. And I'm so excited that, because they're two very, very different approaches to a similar question, which is about history, how we grapple with history. What does it mean for our future? How do we, what do we do with it? And to the extent that I mentioned before about wanting people to be able to engage on a very personal level, that's so true of both plays, that I like to think, how do I put this? Like, I like to think that my plays have especially as I get older, I want my plays to have a portability to them, right? That I don't want a play to, like, I like to leave a lot of room, not just for actors and directors and designers to personalize and to bring themselves and their opinions and their feelings to the room and to any particular production, but for audiences to do that as well. So that, for example, like The Chinese Lady in Denver is very different than The Chinese Lady in New York or in any other city. And that Franklinland too has that kind of portability. That's not just about like what city you're in or what time you're in, right? Like The Chinese Lady is very different now than it was when I first wrote it. And Franklinland too. I first wrote Franklinland, I believe it was 2014, and it wasn't produced until after we were living in the Trump era, like in 2017. And it felt very, very different then. It felt like a very different play with different a different sense of urgency that made audiences and actors feel different things about their approach to this notion of what is a great man? what is an American? You know, like those things feel different depending on what's going on in the world and what's going on in the country. And so I don't want to be prescriptive about what an audience takes away from that experience. But I do want an audience to think about it. I want an audience to think about it in their own personal way, so that if like one audience member feels one way and another audience member feels another, that's great with me as long as they're feeling something. And the thing that they're feeling feels personally important to them.
You know, as a side note, the actor who's playing Ben Franklin in our production, Eric Sandvold, and I were chatting yesterday about the similarities between the two plays. Mm-hmm. And he came away with the fact that Ah Fang Moi and Benjamin Franklin are both insatiably curious, wanting to know more about their world, wanting to know what their place was in the world, to leave an impact in the world, that people could see them and not forget them.
Yeah, it's exciting to say that, like, you know, at a theater called Curious.
Yeah, it's
appropriate and cool, very, very cool.
Well, this next section, we call the Family Feud questions.
Oh, well, I looked at these questions in advance. These are going to be, I hope you don't feel like I'm copying out with some of these.
Yeah, if you want to say pass, you can just say pass, okay? But I'm just going to ask them, and you can just, you know, give short little popcorn
Great
answers to them, okay?
Great.
Okay, are you ready?
Sure. Well, I won't be able to do popcorn. I am going to pass on a couple of them, but I have to explain why.
Oh, you can explain why, sure. Absolutely, yes.
Good.
Okay. What is your favorite play?
See, this is what I can't do. I can't do it because there are just so many, and I feel like there's a sense of, like for me, the things that matter to me are an ecology, right? There's just this giant mass of influences and impressions and you know, like it's like choosing my favorite of those is like choosing my favorite value. You know, it's like they all work in symbiosis with each other. So I can't possibly do that. And I also can't do the second one, which is the Mount Rushmore of playwrights, because it's like there's four faces, and I feel like they only really work in conversation with each other. So it would have to be like hundreds, or, you know, it's a tie. It's a tie between 100 people, basically.
That's very fair. What is the play you wish you wrote?
This is a great, I can kind of answer this question, although it's a little, I know these are supposed to be popcorn responses, but It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, which is that, like, I don't think literally I've ever really wished that I've, like, even plays that I really admire, I admire them because there's something so singular about them, right? They're so singular about them that are particular to that writer. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like it's become easy for me to never get really jealous of another writer's work, even you know, when I admire it so much that I can't kind of stand it, you know? Because it's like I can't write somebody else's play, they can't write my play, and it's like if we're doing our jobs well, then we're doing something that only we could do. That being said, there is a play that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Speaking of portability and, you know, having changing its relationship to the world over time, which is this play by Rajiv Joseph called Describe the Night. And like when I first saw this play, I was just like, there was a craft thing that I was like, there's a scene, like for those who know the play, there's a scene with soup that has a callback to the, like just this offhand, innocuous joke in the first scene. And it's just like this unbelievably theatrical, funny, weird, but moving and really, really valuable moment in the heart of the play. And I just like, it's a thing that I just think about from a craft point of view sometimes, about just how one threads something through an entire play. But I also think about it because it's a play about Putin's Russia, a play about the origins of this. And when I first saw it, there was something a little bit uh, there was an urgency to it that I would imagine, like I really, really wish somebody would do it now so that I could see myself and an audience react to the play given what's going on in the world right now. And so that kind of thing is yeah, that's my best answer to that question.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to add it onto my reading list. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice you have for new writers?
Yeah, that's just like be part of an ecology, you know. This can be a really, really lonely profession when you feel like your relationship to the theater is based on getting people to do your work, or like waiting, like hoping people do, that it's just that's all you have to contribute. That's the thing you have to contribute. Be an advocate for other writers. Like there's nothing greater than this feeling that I'm allowed to have, which is that the things that my peers put out into the world is also what I'm putting out there. Like that I'm putting them out in the world too, that we're advocating for each other, that in their singular way, doing the things that that only they can do, that I could never do, that's part of my contribution too, and that my work as a writer is in conversation with that. And so it just makes everything bigger. It just makes everything bigger, and it makes your life better. It also gives you people that, to call when you're in trouble. And that's so many things. I mean, I love the immediacy of it, obviously. I love that it can, here's the real answer to that question, because you remember, like, it's not too long ago, that period of time when we all thought we were all going to die. We're all going to die. And then you start to think, why am I writing plays, right? Like, what is it? Like, why would I do this? And no theaters were open, so it was like you had a commission due, and you were like, why would I turn this in? Nobody's open. Nothing's going to happen with it until the world changes, right? So it just felt like, okay, you really had to question, like, what is this I'm doing? And there were times when I thought, maybe this is it for theater, for me in theater. Maybe I need to move on to do something else, maybe shift gears. But then I think after all that reflection, I kind of doubled down on it. I kind of felt like, no, this is exactly what I want to be doing, because this is how because I want to get in those rooms. I want to get in those rooms and grapple with these questions with my peers in a way that allows us then to go and grapple with it in front of a live audience, and to feel that interaction, to feel like, okay, we're in this room together and we're addressing something. We're trying to figure something out, that we don't have answers, but we're all asking the same questions in the same way. That's unique to the theater, and I think that's it's something that I immediately knew once once I had that opportunity to dwell on it and to really consider it, that was that's what I would continue to do even after we started to feel like, okay, maybe we're not all going to die right now.
What's one thing you wish you could change about theater in America today?
Yeah, for me, that's just across the board access, like a question of access. Like I feel like not just for audiences, but for artists, just feeling like I wish that we were better at finding ways to get people into the theater, not just into the seats, but on the stages. And to make that sustainable for people.
What beverage do you drink while you write?
I guess it's like I'm drinking coffee right now, but it's morning-ish. I guess I don't drink a lot of alcohol lately. Mostly because I just don't go out very much. But yeah, I would say I guess it's coffee and water.
And we know you've been to Denver because you worked on the Great Wall Story at the Denver Center a couple years ago. So what's your favorite thing about Denver?
I think that the theater ecology there is really great. I think that the conversations that are going on between the different theaters is really exciting. And I mean, the people, of course, like obviously the people. Just had met so many amazing people in Denver. And I should also say, I love that big blue bear. That's that's on my yeah, that's up there too. My favorite. And public art in general. I remember just walking around in that neighborhood and just feeling like there's so much public art, and that's just really you love to see that.
I always feel that the big blue bear looks like it's looking into the convention center saying, this looks delicious in here.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Right.